Hey guys, it's Richard from Galactic Digital, and in this video I want to show you how you can make a really profitable Google Ads campaign with a tiny budget. Over the last 5 years, I've seen hundreds of Google ad accounts managed over $1 million in ad spend, and I can tell you that it's definitely harder to run Google Ads with a tiny budget, but it is definitely possible to succeed with a couple of key changes and optimizations. For example, I've helped this company generate 17 leads from around $300 in ad spend over the last month, and they've already got 2 jobs, so they're making at least 7 to 10 times their ad spend, and they're only spending $300 per month. So it's definitely possible. If you've been told that Google Ads only works with large budgets, then that's definitely not true. And in this video, I'm going to show you some really actionable steps that you can take to get a campaign started or optimized with a really small budget. So let's dive in. Cool. So let's first define what a tiny budget is. So I would say a tiny budget is less than $600 ad spend per month. I'd say a small budget is around less than $3,000 per month, and then a standard budget is between $3,000 to $10,000 per month. Now, if you're spending less than $3,000 per month, because that's a small budget, I'd say you can still get a lot of great tips from this video, and especially if you're spending less than $600 per month, you should definitely try to include as many of the tips I'm gonna go through in this video. I would say that's a fairly limited budget, and to really make the most of it and get a great return, you do need to be careful with how you spend it. So when you have a small budget, you need to follow the strategies I'm about to lay out in order to have success. So let's go through them. Now, before you spend a single dollar on Google Ads, you absolutely need to have really great conversion tracking in place. And I've got another video here that you can watch to help you set up your conversion tracking. But basically, you want to be tracking any of the forms on your website, and especially if you're a local business, you want to track phone calls. So whenever someone calls you from your landing page or your website that you're running Google Ads traffic to, you can count those. The other thing you definitely want before trying to optimize a campaign with a small budget is a high converting landing page. Now, people think you can just have some Google Ads magic and you'll get a great performing campaign. Honestly, 60 to 80% of the improvements that I'm able to make for most clients is just having a really great landing page. And it's definitely worth investing some time or money into just creating a simple landing page that's dedicated just for Google Ads. Now, to give you an example of a high converting landing page, here's one I use for one of my clients. I've tried to blur out their details, but basically you just have a very, very simple headline that says exactly what they do and which areas you service, and then just like a couple of call to actions. And then you have a simple call button or get a free quote button. And if I click that, it goes down to the get a quote form. As you can see, this isn't a super fancy landing page, and perhaps you can get slightly better results by making it really fancy, but simple really works well for Google Ads. The other main thing is your mobile view. So if I switch to mobile, there's normally a logo here, so just ignore that. But we've got a call button at the very top, then we've got a simple what they do, and as you can see, I didn't really have to scroll down to get to the get a free quote or to the call button. So that's very important. A lot of your traffic is going to come from mobile, and they just want to see that you do what they searched for. There's some, jobs are completed on time plus quality guarantee. Cool. I'll call them or I'll get a free quote. And again, it scrolls down to the free quote and it's all really easy and visible. A lot of people think they need some really fancy copywriting to sort of make their landing page convert higher, but for kind of local businesses, you really just need to keep it simple and make it match what your ads are talking about. Another thing is to include social proof. I think these, so these aren't photos. What you can do is just literally take screenshots of your Google reviews. That works very, very well. And in this case, I've just included some reviews. The idea is you want them to look kind of similar to Google reviews. and then yeah, just about us, our process, like pretty basic information just to kind of fill out the page. But really the most important thing is making it very easy to become a lead and just being direct and simple. Now you might be thinking, wow, that's really simple, and yes it is. The other thing you might have noticed is it's not a big complicated website. There really isn't an about us page or a projects page. It's just, here's some basic information about us, get a quote if you want. And that's all your landing page needs to be. In fact, you really don't want people to be able to click to a different page. You want them to either leave, call you, or fill out a form. Awesome, so hopefully you've been able to update your landing page and install proper conversion tracking. At this point, you're ready to launch your Google ad campaign. So in terms of Google Ads, I think there's 8 things that you need to do to get a really high performing ad campaign for a tiny budget or a small budget. So step number 1 is choosing the right campaign type. So when we're creating a new campaign, I really recommend, I'm mostly just going to talk about local businesses, is to choose leads, or you can just create a campaign without guidance, and then do a search campaign. Now, Performance Max, it's very AI driven and conversion heavy, and with a small budget, you're not going to be getting that many conversions, so it's best to just do a search campaign. Keep it simple. Run search. So the next thing is keyword selection, and there's a few cool things you can actually do here to get really great results. So as you can see, we're looking at a tree trimming type of company, and I just typed tree service as my keyword. I'm actually going to change this to a local area so we can get more of like an idea, not Belgium. Cool, so this is a realistic idea of how many searches we're going to get per month. So I'm just descending searches by average monthly searches, and we can see basically we want to look at our top of page bid in mostly the high range, and what we want to do is try to find keywords with a lot of traffic that we think is going to be useful to our business, but with kind of a lower bid range. We're not going to want to include all 50 or so keywords that you'd probably normally choose. We want to be a little bit more picky with it. Now, this is probably the strategy for a tiny budget. If you have a normal budget, I would just include as many relevant keywords as possible. So less than $600, try to be picky. 3,000, just include everything. But yeah, for being picky, let me kind of go through how to do that. I would actually add some filters, and I'll find things that are maybe greater than 300 searches, and I will filter by top of range bid being the lowest. And then we get some kind of cool stats. So we can see stump grinding, which I think is a decent service, is only $6, but you know, a lot of the other ones were $9. So this just kind of gives us an idea of tree loppers near me, that's around $9. Like, there's not a huge amount of play we have here. It's like a small thing, but you know, definitely including wood chipper, stump grinding, you know, these kind of slightly cheaper keywords first, and then including, you know, tree service near me, that kind of thing. So it depends on your industry. In this case, most of them are all kind of the same price, with just wood chipper for, like, that's the crazy one. Maybe that's very cheap. Maybe that's not something you want to include, but basically just ordering them in terms of lowest first and kind of having like a minimum. Like maybe we could even change that to 200. Super cheap. Maybe that's a brand, or maybe you don't want that, but this is also still kind of interesting. So we've got tree pruning, stump grinding near me. A lot of these tree service, they're kind of cheaper. In a way, you need to be careful because some of the cheaper ones are cheaper because the job size is less. So kind of used your, you know, best judgment. We could do the low range as well. Yeah. So kind of using this process, filtering sorting the table to kind of get an idea of, hey, can I find something that's like pretty cheap but still has decent amount of searches, and include that first when you're adding your keywords. That's definitely useful. And for a small budget, I would definitely not have more than 10 keywords. Awesome. So step number 3, we're looking at keyword match types. It's simple. If you have a tiny budget, just use exact. If you have a small budget, probably use exact. But if you're not getting that many searches, include phrase as well. So what do I mean by that? Just when you're including your 10 keywords that you chose before, just add them as exact keywords. Now to do that, you type your keyword and you just add these square brackets between them, or you might have an option in the drop down to change them to exact match. So yeah, just basically do that. So we have a keyword that is keyword furniture store, and we can see with broad match that we got home decor as like a search that triggers keyword furniture store, which is like really not relevant. So that's why we want to use exact match, because the user typed furniture store and our keyword furniture store triggered for that. So basically this just reduces us from losing money. As we expand our budget, then obviously we're okay to kind of have slightly less relevant searches, just in the idea of having more volume of leads, but we want to be absolutely surgical with what we're spending our money on with a tiny budget. So just stick to exact match keywords. Cool, so we're on to step number 4. This is to have very specific location targeting. Now, in this example, actually, I've got quite a few suburbs, but instead of targeting all of Brisbane, I'm just targeting the service area for this client. You can be even more precise with your suburb targeting. If you only target a small area, then just target that area. So you don't need to have broad areas like Brisbane or whatever your city is. You can literally just target suburbs, and that allows you to spend more effectively. The way to do this is to kind of, when you're editing your locations, it takes a little bit to show by postcode, and then you can kind of zoom in, and then it shows you each suburb, and then you can include it or, remove it like that. So basically, whatever area you want, just go around and add them in as you go. And that's kind of how you add suburb by suburb. And just to make it easier, make sure you click show by postcode, because then you might click the big area accidentally if you say show all areas. Even if your service area is naturally bigger, maybe just start in like the richest areas first, and then kind of expand it out to your actual area once you have a higher budget. Definitely worth doing. Awesome. The next thing is with bidding. And this might be slightly controversial, but for a tiny budget, or maybe even a small budget, I would recommend just doing manual CPC. So what does this look like? We go to campaign settings if we haven't changed it already. And this is just like an old campaign to kind of show you. So whatever you have it on, it might be maximize conversions is kind of the default these days. So you can go try to change it here to maximize CPC. Sometimes you might not have the option to change it, so you might need to click change bid strategy directly. I was hoping to try and show you that, but it looks like I can't. But anyway, just click. There's normally something to click, and just keep clicking until you can change it to manual CPC. It's going to warn you, don't worry about that. And then when we go back to our keywords, this was originally maximize clicks or maybe even maximize conversions. So this is why my bids are all out of whack. But you should be able to see a status and your max CPC, which you need to manually select. That's why it's called manual CPC. And basically, I just look at what this is saying. It'll normally tell you the first page bid, and then you can add your manual bid. And I normally just I round up to the nearest 50 cents. So in this case, I'll do $2.50 and then say etc. etc. So $1.47, maybe $1.50, not $150. And that's basically what I would do once you've kind of set up your campaign, is just manually bid like this. This is basically making sure, absolutely sure, that you're paying the smallest amount possible for still a click. Eventually, you'll probably want to change this to maximize clicks, and then once you have around 30 conversions in a month, sometimes if you have a tiny budget, you're just never going to hit 30 conversions. So in that case, I'd recommend just staying with maximize clicks or manual CPC. But once you do get more than 30 conversions in a month, then maybe consider changing it to maximize conversions, eventually a target cost per acquisition. Cool, so the next one is just some fairly well-known optimizations to reduce wasted ad spend, and I'll just like rapid fire go through them. So we want to go campaign settings, and then we want to go to networks. This is just a paused campaign. We want to remove search partners and also remove Google Display Network if it was selected. We want to go locations, and then we want to go location options and make sure it's presence people in or regularly in instead of interest, because this could be people who want to maybe travel to your location but aren't necessarily in that location all the time. So we want to not include those people. And then also you're going to want to go to when and where the ad showed in the insights and reports section, and then we're going to go to tablets and we're just going to go decrease 100%. We're basically just going to stop serving the ads to tablets. It's just kind of not necessarily super data driven, just generally, as you can see, they perform that, like we get less conversions, even though the cost is kind of decent. It's just kind of, if we have a tiny budget, just remove tablets kind of makes things a little bit more efficient. Awesome. And then the other thing you can do is to set up an ad schedule. So for example, this client only runs their ads on the weekend when they're sort of available to do quotes. So in this case, their budget is $20 per day, but they're only spending their budget maybe 3 or 4 days per week. So that's a way to also reduce your overall budget and kind of just make it more efficient. So for example, if you can only quote or do this work on a certain time period, then you can limit the days when your ads are being run as well. You might also find that some days perform much better than others, and this isn't an optimization I'd normally do, but you can look into it. So for example, our conversion rate on Fridays, for whatever reason, is like really great. So we could just run the ads on Fridays as a way to reduce our budget. Awesome. And the very last thing, step number 8, I think, is to optimize super aggressively. Basically, we want to be optimizing once or twice per week. And what I mean by optimizing is having a look at what ads are working well, have a high click-through rate. We also want to look at adding negative keywords. Now, this example is of a mortgage broker, and as you can see, we've already got around 515 negative keywords that we've added. Something you can add actually straight away without even getting any clicks at all is just add all of your local competition, because I just generally find that that doesn't lead to conversions, and if it does lead to conversions, that's kind of like not a great type of lead, because normally they're just confused. So as you can see, we've got everything that's kind of related to things that are less than desirable. So in this case, for a mortgage broker, we don't want a business broker, and he doesn't do business finance, so we don't have that. CanStar is like a general brand. Calculate is less intent. So the way to realistically do this is to go through search terms and try to find keywords that don't look good and basically just add them as a negative keyword. So insights and reports search term, I'll try to find one. So Loan Assist Pty Ltd is a competitor basically. In this case, I would add Pty Ltd as a negative keyword. So in the future, anything with, I think this stands for something, but I don't know, Pty Ltd will be excluded. We could also just get rid of Loan Assist as a negative keyword. So I'm looking at what's making this negative and what's making this kind of a bad keyword, and just extracting that bit and adding that as a negative keyword. For example, if we added home loans as a negative keyword, then we kind of want to show for home loans, so that would be a bit silly. But we could add Brighton home loans, Brighton as a negative keyword, so then anything related to Brighton, which is a competitor, I would assume, doesn't show up in the future. Cool, so that's it for the Google Ads optimizations. Hopefully you were able to make those changes and continue to optimize. Just a couple of other things that are a bit more like business related to keep in mind is when you're advertising with a small budget or a tiny budget, just focus on one core product. Try to think of what is the most profitable product or service that I want to promote and just focus on that. Once you're getting success with that, hopefully you're bringing in some profit from the campaign that you can put towards other services. But just keep it simple if you have a small budget and just focus on one type of service. Number one, solid foundation, have a really high converting landing page and also have proper conversion tracking so you're actually feeding good data into the ad account. That's what we need to set up before we really get into the Google Ads optimizations. Then in the Google Ads optimizations, one campaign type, we just run a search campaign. We use exact match keywords, and when we're doing our keyword research, we target high volume, hopefully good types of keywords with a lower cost. Sometimes it's not possible, but just try to have a look in the keyword planner and see if you can find more specific type of terms that are a little bit cheaper but still a good quality keyword. Then we talked about geographic targeting. If it's relevant to you, just try and include your most profitable or the best suburbs in your area, and then gradually expand those suburbs as your budget increases. For the bidding type, we're going to use manual CPC and just be really aggressive with it. So Google doesn't take more money than they need to. We're not going to worry about AI until we get to around $3,000 a month. Then we're going to optimize super aggressively. We're going to do negative keyword. We're going to add negative keywords and basically stay on top of our campaign and make sure we're only showing up for really great keywords. And the last thing that I just talked about was we're going to focus on one specific product or service that's the most profitable, that has a decent amount of demand, and just with our budget, focus on that one. Don't try to split it off into two services, even if you offer more than one service. Just focus your campaign on your most profitable and in-demand service first, and then once that's making money, then we add the other services. If you follow these steps, I promise you will have a more successful Google Ads campaign. If you found this valuable, please subscribe, like the video, leave a comment below with anything you're struggling with, and I'll definitely try to help you. And if you want some help with your Google Ads account in particular, then I've got a link below where you can book a free strategy session where we can go through in detail and help you fix your Google Ads account. I've only got limited spaces, so just click the link below and hopefully I've got a time for you.